Hello, everyone. I am Camelia. I happen to have a story that might interest you guys. I have been dying to share my story with someone, but couldn't because of some legal problems. Now that everything has been sorted, I finally found the time and energy to sit down and share my story with someone. I should say that this story is about me and my stepsister Gemma. No, we didn't have a hateful relationship like usually happens in Blender family. Gemma was not the villain in my story. Rather, she was the victim, or I should say that she was one of the victims. I know that what I said might confuse a lot of you guys, so I think I need to start by giving some background on my family. My mother, Kelly, and my father divorced when I was 6. They had some personal issues due to which a divorce became necessary. They never harbored any ill will towards each other and had a great co-parenting relationship. My father isn't very relevant to this story, so I will leave him out of it. You should just know that up until I was 14, I stayed with my mother. When I turned 14, I moved to stay with my father because he had better schools in his city. I actually only visited my mother during my summer and winter breaks. This actually worked out for all of us, and there was no resentment whatsoever. Just wanted to make that clear so that you guys don't make wild speculations about my parents. So my mother started to date my stepfather, Steven, shortly before I moved out of her house. He had a daughter named Gemma, who was a bit younger than me. Steven seemed decent enough, and I was happy that my mother found love after so many years. Mom always seemed to be in love and absolutely adored Gemma as well. Even though we weren't close in age, Gemma was like a sister I never had. We had a great relationship and were both super happy when my mom and her dad tied the knot. That was shortly before I graduated college. After my graduation, I moved near my mother because I got accepted into a great college in the next city. I lived in the dorms and visited occasionally. Never in my life had I known or doubted that something was wrong with my mom's new family. There was just this one particular day when I called my mother and she sounded really down. I said, "Hey mom, is something wrong? You don't sound good. Are you sick?" "No, honey, I am not sick. You are not lying to me, right? I will be worrying about you. Maybe I should stop by tomorrow." No. There is no reason to stop by, Camelia. You have college and I know how tired you get after your side job. You don't have to come visit. I am fine. Don't worry. But I am still worried about you, Mom. Can you at least tell me what's wrong? Look, it's not that important. I was just getting emotional thinking about life and everything. I'm getting old and I worry about you and Gemma. Oh, Common. Mom, you are not old. Yeah. You don't have to worry so much. Honey, tell me something. You won't abandon Gemma after I die, right? I am not saying that I am dying, but the thought scares me. I don't want Gemma to feel isolated from you when I am gone, even though you guys are not related. She considers you her sister. Well, I consider her a sister too, Mom. Don't worry. I won't abandon Gemma. I will always be there for her. She is my family now anyway. Thanks for saying that, Camelia. You have no idea how relieved I am. I feel much better right now. My mom had a habit of being dramatic at times. We always laughed about it. The next day, after she herself realized how silly she was being, my mom was still in her prime, so thinking of death was kind of silly to me. I was expecting to laugh about it the next day, and that's exactly what happened. I had called her to check on her, and she was joking about how dramatic she was being the previous day. I wish I hadn't taken her words at face value back then. My mother passed away a month after that phone call. One day, I got a frantic call from my stepsister, and she was crying on the phone. I couldn't barely make out that Mom was rushed to the hospital after she had a nasty fall down the stairs. Apparently, she hadn't told anyone about her fall and just suddenly collapsed after a few hours. I rushed to the hospital, and the doctors said that she had a massive hemorrhage, which ultimately took her life. Mom couldn't even make it to the hospital. She was already gone by the time they brought her in. I was devastated, guys. Nothing had prepared me for my mom's death. I will admit that we had drifted apart a little after she got with Steven, and she couldn't keep in touch as much. Still, we had a healthy and loving relationship, and I loved her to bits. I always thought that I had more time to build back our relationship. I was angry at the world that she was taken away from me so soon. Gemma and Stefan looked devastated as well. Gemma started having panic attacks, so I stayed with her for a few days. Although I got full ownership of the house, I let Stefan and Gemma stay there. After all, I still consider them family. Eventually, life went on and I had to move back to my dorm. It hurt a lot to leave Gemma because she was still suffering and had random breakdowns throughout the day. I asked my stepfather to put her in therapy and promised her that I would come visit on my break. A few months passed and it was finally time for my summer break. I had plans to fly to my dad and spend my break with him, but I decided to surprise Gemma by staying with her for a few days. I had called Steven and told him about my plan, and he seemed happy to have me home. I thought that was that, but the next day I received a call from Gemma. She sounded odd when she said, "Hey, Camelia, I heard that you will be coming home for a few days." Yeah, my summer break has already begun. I will be visiting my father after a few weeks, so I wanted to come and spend some time with you guys. You don't have to come, I know Kelly isn't around anymore, so there is no reason to visit. I know that mom is not around, Gemma. I miss her a lot. But even if she is not around, you and Stefan are. I am coming to see you. I know you two are having a hard time coping with mom's passing too. Some family time will help us heal. Still, you don't need to waste your time on us. What's the matter, Gemma? Don't you want to see me? I do want to see you, Camelia. I miss you a lot. It's just, actually, never mind. I will be happy if you come and spend some time with us. I could sense a lot of hesitancy on Gemma's part. For the love of my life, I didn't know why Gemma didn't want me to come and visit her. As far as I was aware, she always loved it when I was around. She clung to me a lot after mom passed away. I may have been an adult, but she was still a teenager when mom died, so I knew she was having a harder time coping since she considered Kelly her mother too. I really thought that she would be more excited to hear that I was coming to visit, although I was a little miffed that Steven had ruined my surprise. I was more concerned about why Gemma was so hesitant to have me visit. Anyway, despite all the confusion I had, I decided to go and visit Gemma. I knew that whatever problem she was going through would easily come out once I talked to her in person. When I went to my mom's place, I saw that Steven and Gemma were very happy to have me home. Things looked pretty normal, although Gemma looked a little uncomfortable. It was like she was hiding something or dealing with something. I was determined to find out what was bothering her, but I decided to go meet my old friends first. Everything started to unravel after I got home from visiting my friends. Steven was out of the house for some work, so it was just me and Gemma. I knew Gemma was in the house because her shoes were in place and the light was on in her room. I went to my room to change and started thinking about how I should approach Gemma about her problems. It was then that I noticed a piece of paper on my dresser. It was carefully hidden in my underwear drawer, possibly so that no one would touch it. I was really confused and a little creeped out by it. Still, I pulled out the paper and read what was in it. I immediately recognized Gemma's horrible handwriting, but it was the words on the note that made my blood run cold. "Run away before my dad kills you too." I was extremely shocked when I read that note. For the love of my life, I couldn't understand what Gemma was trying to tell me. It was a little bizarre to think that my stepsister was accusing her own father of being a killer. At first, I really thought that this was some sort of a sick prank. I mean, I didn't know that Steven was abusive, let alone capable of murder. So it was kind of natural for me to think that she was joking with me or something. Still, it didn't sit right with me. I decided that I needed to have a chat with Gemma and find out what was going on. I went to her room and knocked on the door multiple times to see what she was up to. Despite knocking and calling out to her, I got no response. I thought that maybe she was busy doing something, so she wasn't opening the door. So I went to my room and came back after 15 minutes. This time, when I didn't get an answer after knocking, I started to get really concerned. I knew that she wasn't a heavy sleeper and always woke up from even the slightest noise. Not answering the door was extremely unnatural behavior for her. Then and there, I decided to just walk into her room. I yelled at her so that she could make herself decent and went inside her room to see what was going on. Nothing had prepared me for what I saw. Gemma had collapsed on the floor and looked like she wasn't even awake. She looked downright battered and even had some bruises on her face. I immediately ran to her and helped her up. I had realized that she was hoarse from crying, so she couldn't exactly answer me. I quickly gave her water and said, "Oh my God, Gemma, what on earth happened to you?" I'm fine. You go back to your room. Pretend that you didn't find me." "What are you talking about, Gemma? Why would I do that? I need to know who did this. You look seriously hurt as well. What is going on?" "I can't tell you, Camellia. It is not safe for you. Why are you still here? Why didn't you leave? I told you to leave before." Gemma suddenly stopped talking and looked around like a scared cat. She was trying to look for noise and hear voices. I knew that she was trying to see if the house was empty. This was a serious situation and she looked really hurt. I didn't want her to panic in any way. I had also remembered the note and decided that I should tell Gemma that her father wasn't in the house. So I said, "Your father isn't in the house, Gemma. You don't have to be afraid. But he can walk in anytime now. We have to be careful." "What is going on, Gemma? I found your note and saw what you have written. Now I found you here like this. I need to know what is happening, Gemma. I am really concerned about you." "Who beat you up? I didn't hear anyone come in." "I can't tell you. I don't want you to suffer too, Camellia. He will be very angry if he finds out I talked. He will start hurting us both." Gemma started to cry again, and I really became concerned for her safety. There were slap marks on her face, and her right eye was a little swollen. I saw that she couldn't move one of her legs. I knew that pressing her for answers at that point wasn't as important as getting her medical help. So instead of dwelling on the topic or pressuring her, I called 911 and requested an ambulance. Gemma tried to tell me not to take her to the hospital, but I didn't listen to her. I told her that I wouldn't inform Stephen right away and tried to calm her down while the ambulance arrived. Once we got to the hospital and had Gemma checked out, I knew that she had been physically abused. The doctors confirmed it as well. Since it was a case of domestic violence, they were forced to document it and call the cops. Gemma cried hard when she heard it. She was really scared and begged me to take her home. She also asked me to stop the cops from coming. It took me and the nurses a lot of time to assure Gemma that she was safe and the cops would help her. When the cops arrived, she refused to talk to them. That's when I requested some alone time with her and started to gently coax her. I said, "You can't just expect me to see the other way, Gemma. What happened to you is not okay. You need to tell me and the cops what happened." I am scared, Camellia. I can't talk." "Yes, you can talk and you have to, Gemma. This is the only way we can get justice for you. You don't understand anything, Camellia. He will hurt me and he will hurt you. He can do horrible things, Camellia. Listen to me, Gemma. No one will ever hurt you again. No one will hurt me either. That's my promise to you. You need to tell me everything. I am here for you. Don't hold back." "Who did this to you, Gemma?" Dad. Dad did this to me, Camellia." I couldn't believe my ears when Gemma told me that her father had beaten her up so badly. I mean, a single slap or punch would have been crossing the line, and Gemma had been beaten black and blue. She had been hurt badly and couldn't even talk properly. Even after I got her to the hospital, she looked very scared and refused to tell me the truth. She wasn't just afraid for herself, she was also concerned for my safety. So Gemma had been trying to keep quiet about everything, but I assured her that I would save her and told her that no one would touch us. That gave her a little hope and she started to talk. I didn't want to overwhelm her, so I reined in my shock and said, "Your father did this to you, Gemma? Why? Why would he do this out of the blue?" He didn't do this out of the blue, Camellia. Dad has always been abusive. He regularly beat me up even before he got married to your mother. What? Why didn't you tell me before? Why did you hide it? Did Mom know? Yes, Kelly knew. After a while, he used to. He used to hit her too. Wait, what? Stephen used to hit my mother? This was all new information to me. I had no idea that Stephen used to hit my mother. She had never told me anything about my stepfather physically abusing her. Yes, she seemed a little off every time I visited her, but she kept saying that it was because of her health issues. I had no reason to suspect anything because in front of me they acted like a happy family. So hearing that Stephen was abusive towards my mother and Gemma came as a huge shock. But things were about to get much worse. Gemma said, "I am so sorry, Camellia. I should have come to you sooner. I was extremely scared. So I didn't tell you what happened to Kelly." "What do you mean, Gemma? What happened to Mom?" Your mom didn't fall from the stairs and hurt her head. She suffered that injury after my father bashed her head against the staircase. Are you trying to say that Stefan may have killed my mom?" Yes, I think so. Kelly was conscious for a while and begged Stephen to take her to the hospital, but my dad called her dramatic and left. She died because she wasn't taken to the hospital on time. My world started to spin when I found out that my mother may have been murdered. Out of all things in life, I had never expected this to happen to her. My mother used to be a strong and resilient woman. She had raised me by herself and didn't settle for a random man. I knew she had married Stephen because she loved him and Gemma wholeheartedly. Slowly, the pieces started to fall in place. I finally understood why my mother was adamant about me taking care of Gemma when she was gone. Mom knew what was coming, but she didn't do anything to stop it. Or maybe she was scared, just like Gemma. I wanted to scream and cry out in agony when Gemma told me about my mom. I was already a mess seeing my stepsister beaten up, but hearing that my stepfather may have killed my mom made me crazy. Still, I composed myself because I needed to calm Gemma down so that she could talk to the cops. So I said, "Why didn't you tell me sooner, Gemma? I could have done something." "I don't know why Mom never told me." "I am sorry, Camellia. Dad kept threatening Kelly about hurting you, so she kept quiet. Plus, I think she didn't want to part with me. Dad always tells me that I will be homeless if I open my mouth. He used to scare me about a lot of things. I am so sorry." "Camellia, I am a coward." "No, you are not a coward, Gemma. You are a brave girl who tried to protect me. You have nothing to apologize for. I wish I had seen the signs sooner. Maybe I could have helped both of you." No, don't help me, Camellia. You have a chance to run away. Just leave before Dad destroys your life too." "Absolutely not, Gemma. I am not leaving you in this hell, and I want justice for my mother too." "But what will you do, Camellia?" "You need to talk to the cops, Gemma. You need to tell them everything." Gemma had started to panic when I told her about talking to the cops. She seemed visibly upset and started to shake. I knew that the sounds Stephen inflicted on her were mental as well as physical. I also knew that I needed backup if I wanted Gemma to talk to the cops. So I enlisted the help of a psychiatrist at the hospital, and the two of us convinced Gemma to talk. My stepsister told the cops everything. She also showed them her messages with Stephen, where he had been emotionally abusing her and threatening to kill her like my mother. Those texts were awful, guys. I can't tell you how horrible my stepfather was. The mental gymnastics were just too messed up for anyone to understand. The cops were also pretty alarmed, but they assured me that Stephen would not get away with this. They collected all the evidence and told me that they would arrest Stephen soon. About 5 minutes after the cops left, Stephen called Gemma. The moment she saw her name on her phone screen, she started to cry. I told her to pick up the call and put it on speaker. We also recorded the call so that we could get more evidence for the cops. I guess our talk made Gemma have a little courage, so she agreed to pick up the phone. As soon as she said hello, Stephen started to scream from the other end. I am not including all the cuss words he used for his own daughter because it is downright disgusting. So this is the redacted version of what he said. "You little brat, where on earth are you? I am at the hospital. Why on earth did you go to the hospital? I told you that you are not allowed to leave the house. I needed help, Dad. You hurt me really bad. Oh, shut up, you brat. You deserve it for running your mouth to me. You didn't learn your lesson at all." "No, you didn't learn your lesson, Dad. Kelly died because you refused to take her to the hospital after you beat her up. I could have died too. I had to come to the hospital to save myself. You think you are so clever? Wait till you come back. I will end you, just like I ended Kelly." Well, I don't think so, Stephen. I was getting really pissed off when I heard Stephen threatening Gemma. He probably forgot that I was supposed to be at the house and could have accompanied her to the hospital. Stephen was already having a gallow time, reminding Gemma of what he was capable of doing. It infuriated me to know that he had been getting away with a lot of things, and no one ever spoke up against him. When he mentioned ending my mother's life, it was like something snapped in me. I couldn't hold on to my anger anymore and spoke out. My stepfather was a little shocked because he wasn't expecting me to be hearing the conversation at all. He stammered a little and said, "What? What are you doing there, Camellia? Shouldn't you be at your dorm? I was supposed to be at home, remember?" Imagine my surprise when I saw Gemma collapsed on the floor and writhing in pain. Oh, she is fine. She has a habit of acting out like that. Is that so, Stephen? Are you really going to ignore the fact that I heard what you say? I know that you had been physically and mentally abusing Gemma and my mother. I also know that you are the reason my mother died. I don't know what you are talking about. I heard everything, Stefan. Gemma told me everything too. You are going down now. Stephen suddenly stopped pretending to be confused and finally showed me his true face. His voice completely changed after this point, and he started to try and intimidate me. He said, "Oh yeah, what are you going to do, Camellia?" "I will be going to the cops with Gemma. We will tell them everything." "Good luck with that, Camellia." "No one will believe you two because you have no proof against me. I am a respected member of the community, so people won't believe you two, which is exactly why we had this conversation recorded, Stephen. Don't forget that we have proof through texts. You thought you could threaten Gemma and keep your sordid actions hidden. Well, not anymore, Stephen. We have plenty of evidence of your actions and have already told the cops everything. In fact, they will be at your doorstep fairly soon." This is when Stephen realized that he wasn't talking to some naive girl who he could intimidate. My father had taught me well, and I knew how to defend myself in situations like this. I ultimately had the upper hand over Stephen because I had already reported everything to the cops. Gemma also was less scared than before because she knew that she had my support. I wasn't going to back down, especially after knowing that someone had hurt my family. And yes, Gemma is my family too. Stephen, however, was a nobody who would soon go to jail for his actions. I could tell that my stepfather had gotten a little scared because he started to stammer again. That didn't stop him from trying to threaten and manipulate me, though. He said, What did you say? "You are going to pay for this. I will kill you two." Good luck with that, Stephen. Let's see if you can actually get out of jail. Even if you do, we will have protective orders against you. That won't stop me. I will come after you too. You need to go to the cops and withdraw your statements. Nope, it's not happening. You will pay for killing my mother, Stephen. Karma is coming for you. You brat, I will end you. I will end you. Stephen started to hurl abuses at me and Gemma, and we listened on. I wasn't going to hang up on Stephen because I wanted to collect more evidence. Gemma was getting a little scared, but she didn't have to bear her father's abuse for long. After like a minute or two, I clearly heard the cops banging on the door. Stephen then had to stop hurling abuses at us and face the cops. I can't say what went down at the house, but I can confirm that Stephen got arrested. Gemma was eventually released from the hospital. We went back home and called a few of my old friends to stay with us for a few days. Stephen was able to make bail, but couldn't stay at the house because he didn't have a rental agreement in place. Yeah, in my state, I didn't need to give him a month's notice or any notice to kick him out. Only paid renters have legal rights here. Since I didn't charge Stephen a cent, he couldn't be in the house. CPS was also contacted by the hospital, so Gemma wasn't going back to him either. Her mother was long dead, and the rest of Gemma's family lived far away, so I was able to get emergency custody since I was an adult with a steady income. Thank God for small mercies. Now, I don't think you will be interested in all the details of what happened next, but I won't leave you hanging about what happened later. So here's a brief summary of how Stephen got punished. The changes against Stephen were pretty serious since he was tried for manslaughter. He actually made a plea deal and I accepted because I really wanted to put this behind me. I had my hands full with Gemma and needed to focus on her. Stephen got 18 years in jail in total, which only happened because he actually had previous charges on his record. So I wouldn't say he got off easy. Yes, he was also charged for domestic violence, among many others. All those changes together brought him 18 years in jail. I am pretty sure that he would have gotten worse if we had pursued the case, since his previous charges were pretty bad as well. Anyway, this plea deal helped us get closure and concentrate on building our life back up. Right now, Gemma is 17 and finishing up school. We actually made things work since I put my college on hold so that she can finish up school in peace. I will go back to college once she does. Overall, we are doing much better, and even my father has been sending money to help out. He was the one who gave me money to pay for my and Gemma's lawyers. Yeah, he is a great man. I still miss my mother and reminisce about her with Gemma. We have gotten much closer than before, and I think this is something that Mom wanted. I really hope I made her proud by getting Stephen the punishment he deserved.